Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be talking about the two most common misunderstandings that people have about radar detectors. These misunderstandings lead people to potentially getting speeding tickets, to returning perfectly good radar detectors, thinking there's something wrong when it turns out there's actually not. It's for that reason that I want to go ahead and cover what these two most common misunderstandings are. I hear these questions all the time. So the questions are kind of opposites of each other. It's two sides of the same coin. The first question is basically, why doesn't my radar detector go off when I pass a police officer, right? Why didn't it beep? I just passed a cop, but my radar detector was totally silent. What happened? Well, the answer to that is this is not a police car detector. It is a radar detector. And you see, police officers have radar guns in their car that they can turn on and turn off. When they want to clock potential speeders, they can turn their radar guns on and a speed will show up on the display. And if you happen to be nearby, your radar detector will go off. If they aren't using a radar gun at the time, they're just driving around, going to the donut shop, or responding to a call, there was a break-in down the street, they're not worried about, speed enforcement. They're going to have their radar guns actually turned off if they even have them in the first place. A lot of police officers actually don't even have radar guns at all because they don't do speed enforcement, So this is not a police officer detector, it is a radar detector. So if they have a radar gun in their car and they're actively using it, your radar detector will alert, assuming you have good range. And there's actually one trick that police officers can use, which is where they leave their radar guns turned off, and then only when they see somebody that they want to clock, they'll at that point turn on their radar detector. And the idea is they're going to be not giving radar detector users advanced warning so that they can slow down ahead of time, right? So the idea behind that and what you want to do to combat that, two things. Number one, you're going to want a really sensitive radar detector that gives you long range so that you can pick up when the police officers are actually clocking people way up ahead of you. Additionally, same idea, you're going to want to drive behind somebody else who is, booking it, right? We call it having a rabbit. Somebody up ahead of you where they're going to be drawing fire ahead of you, and should anything happen, the officer sees, hey, I want to clock this person, they'll be the one getting clocked, not you. So you're going to want to have different strategies here, right? You're going to want to have other people ahead of you, and you're going to want a sensitive detector. This is one of the reasons why when we do radar detector tests, one of the main things that we test is how sensitive the detector is. It's going to give you long range and the maximum level of warning so that you can slow down before it's your turn to be clocked. And that's what a radar detector is designed to do. It's designed to give you warning ahead of time so that you can slow down. Now, another thing just to let you know that cops can do is instead of using radar guns, they can use laser guns. Laser guns are a little bit different. Radar guns just kind of blast out and alert anybody in the area, right? Laser, it's a thin beam of light, and it's designed to tag one car in particular. It makes it actually a lot easier for the cop to tell whose speed they're actually measuring, because radar is just whoever is close or has a big vehicle or something, right? With laser, they can actually put the beam right on one particular car, and it's a lot easier for them to tell who they're clocking. Unfortunately, as a driver, you're not going to really get any advanced warning, and it's for that reason that you're actually going to need a laser jammer. The idea is that your laser jammers installed in your car are going to fire back at the laser gun, prevent it from getting a speed reading, slow down to the speed limit, turn your jammers off, and allow them to get a speed off your car. And then at that point they realize, oh, doing the speed limit, no big deal, next car. So you're going to need laser jammers. A radar detector is not going to help you against laser. For my recommendations on laser jammers, take a look at the link in the video description. In short, ALPs, the anti-laser priority, are the jammers to get these days. You'll find a link down to those, but I'm not going to get too much into laser. So when it comes to radar detectors, because you're not going to be getting any warning ahead of time, a radar detector is not very useful against laser. They'll actually come with a laser detector built in, but a laser detector in a radar detector is really not that useful. It's basically a ticket notifier. It just lets you know, hey, your speed has already been acquired. If you're speeding, congratulations, get ready for the roadside disco, So it's really not of value, and that's even if your detector goes off in the first place. If your detector is mounted high up in your windshield, for example, for best radar performance, and your officer is actually shooting, way down at your license plate or your headlights or something, that thin beam may not even be high enough for your laser detector and your radar detector to even go off. So as I said, laser detection in a radar detector is really not practically, realistically speaking, all that useful. That's why you're going to need laser jammers to kind of go along with it, right? So the things that I'll recommend are basically a good quality radar detector, a good laser jammer, and running Waze. Waze is a free app you can run on your phone. It's a navigation app like Google Maps, and people will mark, hey, there's a police officer been spotted ahead, so you can actually see where the cops are in real time, all that kind of stuff. So good radar detector, good laser jammer, and running Waze are kind of your three main components that you're going to need to a good countermeasure setup. So that's why, coming back to the original question, why did my radar detector not go off when I passed a cop, is because it's not a police car detector, it's a radar detector. If, again, they're not using radar at the moment, they don't have a radar gun, if they're using laser, whatever the case is, your radar detector is not going to help. That's why you're going to want multiple pieces to the kit and just kind of understand how these tools work and what they're designed to do and what they can't do, right? So, radar detectors. Now, the other question is pretty much the same idea, but the opposite side of the coin. It's not, why didn't my radar detector go off, but rather, why is my radar detector going off when there's no cops around, right? But it's going off to other things as well when there's not actually any threats around. Why is that? Well, again, it comes back to the same principle, in that this is a radar detector, not a police car detector, not a police radar detector. You see, there's a whole bunch of things these days that use radar. For example, you have police radar guns. That's one example. You also have those signs on the side of the road that say your speed is blank. Those use radar. Another common example are those automatic door openers that you'll see in shopping centers, in grocery stores, and drugstores. Those actually transmit radar as well, just like police radar guns do. Another really common one are a lot of cars that have those new collision avoidance systems, whether it's like blind spot monitoring systems or emergency braking systems. A lot of those actually use radar to tell what's going on around it. They may use LiDAR, they may use cameras, they may use radar. For that reason, there's a whole bunch of sources of radar going on around you. And so you need a detector that can not only give you long range to detect radar way off ahead, but also filter out the sources of radar that are not actually threats. So those are the two things that we look for in a good quality radar detector: is good sensitivity for long range, as well as good filtering. So it's really ideally only alerting to police cars, and the whole boy who cried wolf thing, you want to actually listen to it when it goes off, so you don't actually ignore it, right? So you want a detector with really good filtering. So those are the two things we look for: good performance and good filtering. Now, there's a couple different ways of accomplishing that sort of filtering. One of the most common ways is actually to use a GPS chip built into your detector, or if your detector doesn't have GPS, to pair it with your cell phone and use your phone's GPS and run an app. The idea is, as you're driving around, when you're passing a lot of the really common sources of false alerts, like those shopping centers I mentioned, the drugstores, those speed signs, they're always in the same location, right? So what a detector is designed to do is it can either do it automatically, or you press a button and manually teach your detector, and you say, this is a false alert. If you see this frequency signal in this location again, go ahead and mute it in the future. This is a false alert. I don't want to be warned to it. If you see a signal in a different location, or if it's in the same location but it's a different frequency, let me know. That's something new. It could be a police officer who's nearby who's also running radar. It could be a car with the blind spot monitoring system, but because cars are always driving around, right, we're not going to be using GPS to learn where those are. So GPS is designed to help filter out a lot of these stationary false alerts. Again, the grocery stores, your drugstores, your speed signs, etc. Now, to filter out the moving false alerts, like cars with blind spot monitoring systems, you do need actually a more sophisticated detector. GPS does not help. You're going to need a detector that is going to implement a couple different filters. I've got tutorials for all the different detectors on how to actually activate these filters. They're usually called TSR or TMF, TFSR. There's different things, but the idea is there's a couple different ways of filtering it. The newer detectors are going to be doing some tricks in terms of filtering out any brief pulses of radar or analyzing the signal and the modulation. There's some pretty sophisticated things that the newer detectors are doing that the older detectors weren't able to do. So the older detectors you're going to find are going to give you a lot more false alerts, especially these days with cars that have these blind spot monitoring systems. So to combat that, you're going to need a newer detector such as the Stinger VIP. The new version of the V1, not the older versions, but the newest versions are actually quite good at filtering those out. The detectors from Uniden are pretty good. Some of the Redenso ones are pretty good. Some of Escort's newest detectors, like the Max and the Max 360, they've been updated to have some better blind spot filtering. They didn't when they first came out. So again, some of the newest detectors that are now hitting the market do have the ability to filter out many of these false alerts. Not all of them. There's no detector that can completely 100% filter out all of them. It's actually pretty challenging, pretty difficult to do, and nobody's able to do it perfectly. A lot easier said than done. But again, the newest detectors are going to be having the ability to filter out a lot of these blind spot falses, and they will come with GPS, either built into the detector itself, or you're going to have to pair it with your phone and run an app, so you're using your phone's GPS. So to answer the question, why is my radar detector going off when there's no cops around? It's because your radar detector is alerting to a whole bunch of other sources of radar that happen to be in use in your area. And so it's for that reason that you're going to want a variety of different filters to combat combat moving falses, stationary falses, etc. For recommendations on like good detectors that are going to give you both good range and good filtering, I do have like a radar detector buyer's guide where I basically just kind of boil it all down and like, all right, which ones are the best for highway drivers, for city drivers, for different budgets. If you want a windshield mount detector or you want a remote mount installed in your grill for more stealthiness, take a look, link in the video description, or just click the button right there on screen. It'll take you to my radar detector buyer's guide and it goes over all that kind of stuff. So I hope that's been helpful. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. You'll find links down in the video description for additional relevant information related to the topic. So awesome. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.